Michelle, she should change her name to Misery Obama. That's really what I think of when Misery Obama never has a positive word to say. Never. Not about children, not about family, certainly not about her husband. By the way, before we leave this topic, here's her latest soundbite that made the rounds. This happened on June 18th, but I was off. Here it is, SOT 39.
You should have threw a boy in the mix.
I would. I'm so glad I didn't have a boy.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
Baby Barack. It would have been amazing.
No, I would have felt for him.
What do you get when you mix a former First Lady with a bold mic drop moment from Megyn Kelly? Absolute media chaos. Buckle up, because Michelle Obama just stepped into a verbal blender and Megyn didn't hesitate to hit puree. From what some are calling forced relatability to speeches that feel a bit tone-deaf, Kelly breaks down the polished public image like it's a cheap sticker peeling off a dollar store lunchbox. If you thought the Obamas were beyond public criticism, think again. This critique is sharp, sarcastic, and nearly impossible to ignore, and it's already making waves online.
Speaking of people who continue to play the victim even though they're not, here is today's daily dose of Michelle Obama, who has been out there trying to promote her terrible podcast that has absolutely no fan following. And she decided everything she says and does is a complaint. Everything. And so she winds up talking to Tina Knowles, also better known as Beyonce's mother, about marriage and divorce, which is Michelle's favorite topic, one of them at least. Number one is how much she hates her time as First Lady. She hated it. And number two, I mean, you could go either way, how racist the country is and how much she can't stand it. And then we're coming in, at least in the top three, is her negative comments about her husband. And
Michelle Obama seemed ready to glide through the spotlight of political theater once again, confidently waving like she was directing a flash mob of adoring media interns. But this time, Megyn Kelly entered the scene with a verbal and a not-so-subtle smirk. In a matter of moments, the usual glitz, glamour, and well-rehearsed messaging weren't enough to keep the narrative afloat. The curtain got pulled back and the fantasy began to crack.
Barack, Michelle, Obama appearance, the podcast, because everybody thinks they're getting a divorce. And let's face it, they probably are. She dragged him onto her show with brother Craig, and the following took place. Here's how it started in SOT 36.
Barack Obama, can you join us?
Michelle Obama seemed ready to glide through the spotlight of political theater once again, confidently waving like she was directing a flash mob of adoring media interns. But this time, Megyn Kelly entered the scene with a verbal and a not-so-subtle smirk. In a matter of moments, the usual glitz, glamour, and well-rehearsed messaging weren't enough to keep the narrative afloat. The curtain got pulled back and the fantasy began to crack. You see, Michelle's entire public image has always been crafted like a luxury treehouse elevated above the crowd. Polished, photogenic, and propped up by the invisible scaffolding of media admiration and institutional praise. But the moment someone flips on the kitchen light and exposes the flaws, the polished illusion begins to crumble, and audiences start seeing the structure for what it really is.
I genuinely think she meant what she said. Oh God, I'd have another Barack Obama on my hands, and who the hell wants that? I mean, we kind of can relate, but whatever, it's fine. It's different. We're the general public. But it was so funny. Like, I'll show the audience one other thing. Yesterday we had on Ruthless, and Josh Holmes was saying you should show some outtakes because we showed a tease. I'm like, we should show some outtakes. So they cut a couple of you and me when we were sitting there, and just how funny it was because she's so absurd. We had no idea she was this negative a person.
Megyn Kelly, with the precision of a seasoned commentator and the energy of someone who's been waiting years to finally say, "I told you so," tore through Michelle Obama's carefully crafted public persona like it was a clearance sale on royalty-themed branding. Because let's be honest, the only thing more predictable than Michelle's "I'm just like you," but also, your queen routine is the media's collective swoon every time she simply walks near a podium. It's performance wrapped in praise. And Megyn wasn't buying the ticket.
And going to therapy and just figuring out, like, what happened those 8 years we were in the White House?
What happened that 8 years?
What did that do to me internally, my soul?
No one talks about this.
No, they don't.
We made it through.
We got out alive.
I hope we made the country proud.
My girls are whole.
But what happened to me?
What happened happened to me.
Michelle steps into the spotlight once again, delivering her familiar when they go low, we go high message, all while subtly throwing shade with the finesse of a polished public figure who's mastered the art of the backhanded comment. The contradictions in her messaging are so consistent, it's almost become part of her brand identity. At times, it feels less like inspiration and more like curated contradiction, the kind you'd expect to see repackaged as an exclusive wellness product on a premium shelf.
She talks about like her time in the White House, Barack running. It's all negative on this new podcast. I mean, it's exactly what we thought. It's very clear she hated being First Lady. She hated being in Washington. She doesn't like the fact that Barack was president. I mean, she just has nothing but negative things to say. Here's just one small, she doesn't like openly get, caustic, but she makes it pretty clear.
While Michelle Obama continues to present herself as someone too dignified for the political spotlight, her actions tell a different story, more like First Lady 2.0, the sequel no one officially asked for. It's the political equivalent of a surprise album drop from a long-retired artist, except most people haven't hit play because they're still recovering from the first installment. Megyn Kelly wasn't having it, not the curated humility, not the Ivy League glow, and certainly not the carefully packaged stories of struggle. The hardships, as told, somehow include elite internships, prestigious schools, and a resume so polished it could blind a bald eagle. Yes, please. Remind us about the journey while sipping organic tea in a multi-million-dollar mansion. Her so-called relatable moments often land like someone Googled normal people problems and had them printed on cue cards. Forgot your lunch once, had braces as a teen. Meanwhile, real people are out here choosing between rent and groceries, while being lectured on self-care from a $5,000 recliner. Megyn didn't dismantle that narrative with cruelty, but with her trademark deadpan delivery, the kind that says, "Sweetheart, no one's buying the Hallmark version of your origin story anymore." Because eventually, the fairy tale wears thin when the castle's mortgage is public record.
This woman is a one-woman destitution derby. Every time we check in on her at her podcast, she is feeling sorry for herself. She is criticizing Barack Obama or this country. She never has a positive word to say about anything. And the latest example was when she went on this other guy's podcast, Jay Shetty. She goes and sits down with him, and he asks her, what are you afraid of? And she starts off by saying, well, my fears aren't for me. I think about the streets. My fears aren't for me.
Well, in this current climate for me, it's, what's happening to immigrants.
I mean, I travel in a 4-car motorcade.
And then there's the fashion tour, often framed as activism. Michelle Obama regularly appears at charity events dressed like she's stepping onto the Met Gala. Red carpet, all while delivering speeches about staying humble and grounded. Because nothing says down to earth quite like a sequin jumpsuit with a price tag higher than a semester of college. At this point, she's one designer trench coat away from establishing her own modern monarchy. Megyn Kelly pointed it out clearly. Michelle doesn't just want the spotlight, she wants it curated, mood-lit, and followed by applause, no matter what's said. And the moment anyone questions the narrative, the deflection begins. Suddenly, the issue isn't the critique, it's that society isn't ready for her message. It's a convenient defense mechanism, a polished shield, of victimhood that seems to activate anytime the conversation gets a little too real.
You should have threw a boy in the mix.
I'm so glad I didn't have a boy. Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
It's like baby Barack. It would have been amazing.
Ooh, no, I would have felt for him.
She just borrowed our boys.
Yes, I got plenty.
Wow.
Did you catch that? She's glad she didn't have a boy because he would have been a Barack Obama. And that's a hard pass for her. This woman can't stand him. She can't.
Wait a minute. Now I like her. She prevented another Barack in the world. The Iranian regime quakes. We could have had another shot.
The performance rarely changes. A few carefully timed tears, a nostalgic callback to her humble beginnings, and a gentle reminder that she never wanted the spotlight. Yet somehow, Michelle Obama has appeared on more magazine covers than most world leaders. For someone who claims to dislike political chaos, she certainly knows how to stir the pot and season it with generous helpings of self-praise. The irony isn't subtle. Michelle positions herself as a unifier, but her speeches often carry a tone so condescending it could be spread on toast. Her once hopeful message has slowly evolved into a polished, passive-aggressive TEDx talk about how the rest of us just haven't reached her level of enlightenment. Megyn Kelly didn't have to raise her voice. She didn't need to rant. She simply took apart the carefully built image brick by designer Brick. And suddenly, the Empress's new clothes started to resemble borrowed power suits and recycled slogans. Michelle's playbook is older than daytime drama plots. Add a touch of victimhood to deflect accountability. Sprinkle in some vague affirmations to sound inspiring. And ride the nostalgia wave like a surfer in denial. Remember the garden at the White House? Sure, but it was the chef who picked the kale, and the PR team who scheduled the photo op.
The way you talk about the need to get your independence, because your marriage wasn't always what it should have been.
Right.
Okay, so she's going right in, like, independence is what it's about. Of course, you know, you had a shitty marriage. I can totally relate. And then can I just show you one more? Look at SOT 23. No, I'm sorry. It's the VO6, where the two of them get up and they start dancing. And this is part of the Michelle Obama attempted reinvention. I'm sorry, but I'm not impressed. To make herself into something cool. Here she is again. Make herself into something cool, Walter, that like we can relate to. She's a cool girl because she was first lady, and that she can get up there and dance with Beyonce's mom. I'm sorry, but all I can think is you hate.
And let's not pretend that Michelle Obama's selective silence isn't strategic. When the tough questions come up, she shifts into motivational speaker mode, with a sudden case of selective amnesia. The conversation turns toward our journey, raising strong daughters, and abstract inspiration, while somehow skipping over the part where every valid critique gets rebranded as an attack on all women. It's the ultimate narrative shell game. Move the conversation just enough so that anyone raising concerns is labeled a hater, or worse. UNCULTURED. Because in the Church of Michelle, dissent isn't just frowned upon, it's practically blasphemy. And Megyn Kelly. She showed up like a heretic with a megaphone and a flashlight. Let's talk about brand building for a moment. Michelle Obama didn't just write a memoir, she launched a full-blown emotional cinematic universe. That book wasn't just a story. It was a soft focus, self-help pilgrimage, wrapped in linen-scented affirmations, seemingly sponsored by Whole Foods, SoulCycle, and the lingering spirit of Oprah's book club. Every chapter felt like a designer moment, not raw vulnerability, but polished storytelling where a morning workout turns into a spiritual awakening, followed by a protein shake and a TED Talk. There's authenticity, and then there's branding your squats as enlightenment.
There will be parental pain. We have to become tougher for the sake of our kids. And I just don't think that there's any way around making this easy for parents. I think that that's what we...
Parenting is never easy.
It's not supposed to be. And it's not fun. You know, life isn't fair, and that's another lesson for kids to learn.
That's right.
It's not fun. It's painful having children. It's not fun.
And she wonders why, as she told Amy Poehler, her daughters run the other way when she opens her mouth to offer what is surely unsolicited advice.
Like, I look back on my own experience with my kids. Yeah, it's hard when they're very little. It's a lot more hard work than, now my kids are 15, 14, and almost 12. But it's still fun. They're so cute. I don't know a mother who would look back at years 1 through 13 and say, it's gonna be bad. Those 13 years, they're bad. The kids are a hassle. And then doubles down here saying parenting is not fun, it's pain.
And then came Megyn, not with outrage or scandal, but with the emotional equivalent of a paperclip and a raised eyebrow. She didn't need a smear campaign or some headline-grabbing revelation. All she did was wave a tiny flag of reality. And just like that, Michelle's cloud of curated motivation started looking more like fogged-up glass. Megyn simply held up a mirror. No neon signs, no drama, just a calm, measured, does this even make sense? And somehow, that quiet logic was enough to shake Michelle's carefully polished tower of affirmations. Like a game of motivational Jenga that suddenly lost its balance. Michelle's version of diplomacy often feels like being hit with a velvet pillow stuffed with judgment. She doesn't clap back, she redirects. Which is really code for a passive-aggressive zinger, served with a smile and a cashmere cardigan. The media eats it up like artisanal empowerment plated on reclaimed wood. Meanwhile, the rest of us are sitting here wondering, wait, did she just call someone irrelevant by using the word interesting 3 times in a row?
I look back on my own experience with my kids. Yeah, it's hard when they're very little. It's a lot more hard work than, now my kids are 15, 14, and almost 12. But it's still fun. They're so cute. I don't know a mother who would look back at years 1 through 13 and say, it's gonna be bad. Those 13 years, they're bad. The kids are a hassle. And then doubles down here saying parenting is not fun, it's painful.
But Megan came in like a librarian during finals week. No drama, no flattery, just straight facts with footnotes. She didn't flinch. While Michelle's biggest fans were busy hyperventilating into monogrammed tote bags, Megan calmly pointed out the obvious. Maybe someone constantly surrounded by applause isn't the best judge of how real they're being. Because when you live in a motivational echo chamber long enough, it's easy to start mistaking cheers for criticism, and yoga poses for activism. And just like that, the image of Michelle as America's universally beloved First Lady turned spiritual guide began to quietly unravel, one inspirational caption at a time. What once felt like transformational leadership suddenly looked more like corporate life coaching with a PR budget and a full-time speechwriter. The illusion didn't explode, it cracked. Not with a bang, but with a dry smirk, a raised eyebrow, and one very inconvenient mirror.
Still just as bitter as ever. There's such a great new spin of complaints here. Here's one from her most recent episode, which still on YouTube, she's got like 200,000 subscribers. It's really amazing that now she's been doing this for how many episodes? She's been literally on every podcast of the left wing promoting it.
And the things were, there was a line of people waiting to shake hands with our respective husbands, people like reaching over our heads and spilling water on us, trying to get to these two, illustrious men.
And that's annoying because she's supposed to be the star. Michelle Obama. This dovetails perfectly with so many other comments she's made about how she is like, what about me?
Let's not overlook the Messiah complex either. Michelle Obama often speaks about herself like she's a timeless symbol of progress, floating above the noise, untouched by controversy. But in reality, she's just as deep in the political trenches as anyone else. She just does it in heels and pretends she levitates. Every photo op, every speech, every Netflix cameo carries that same unmistakable sheen of self-importance. The kind you'd expect from someone who genuinely believes their Spotify podcast is changing the world. Spoiler, it's not. But the acoustics are perfect for self-congratulation. Megyn Kelly didn't attack Michelle, she simply let the air out of the myth. What looked like a floating symbol of hope was really a well-branded hot air balloon with a luxury gondola underneath, because behind every uplifting quote, there's a business model. Behind every tearful anecdote, there's a publishing deal. And behind every perfectly posed candid moment is a production crew whispering, okay, now tilt your head and try to look emotional.
Knowing that there are divorce rumors and, she's not showing up for him, whether it's at the Jimmy Carter funeral or the Trump inauguration or the basketball game he just went to in LA, when visiting their daughters and then dinner with the daughters was not there. Here she is talking about it. If it were me, I would say something nice about him. I would say he's just so charming. It was meant to be. I knew he could heal the earth in the way he did. There was only one person who could do it, and it was my husband, Barack Obama, whatever. Then she gets on to talking a little bit about him personally, and this is how that sounded.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually like, you got to stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much time to capture
check up. Now, Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's...
Michelle Obama's post-White House career has basically played out like a one-woman Broadway show where she stars as the humble servant, the wise sage, and the misunderstood queen, all at once. But the moment someone like Megyn Kelly walks into the theater with a flashlight and asks, hey, where are the exit signs? The illusion starts to flicker. And the media. They can't stand it. How dare anyone question Saint Michelle? But here's the thing, if she keeps injecting herself into the political and cultural bloodstream, she should expect the occasional cholesterol check. And Megyn delivered it with a smirk and a polite but firm try again. Now, Michelle's team is probably deep in damage control mode, brainstorming titles for her next memoir. Maybe something like still becoming ... again, or becoming even more than before, where criticism is rebranded as a sign of bravery. Because of course, nothing screams courage like being gently challenged by someone who's not completely hypnotized by your brand.
If you add it all up, even the year, if the odds were you're going to be married to your partner for 50 years, and 10 of those years could be bad.
Is it, Michelle? It's not. I've been married for 17 and a half years, and not one was bad. I think she and he married the wrong people.
In the end, Michelle Obama's aura was never invincible. It's just gone unchallenged for so long that people stopped looking too closely. But Megyn Kelly did. And when she looked past the lace curtain, she saw straight into the trophy case, labeled untouchable. Then, with a calm voice and a steady hand, she gave it a polite nudge, and down it went. Now, Michelle's supporters are left trying to tape the pieces back together, all while insisting nothing ever broke. But the truth is, everyone saw it. The sparkle dimmed. The mystique cracked. The myth took a hit. And all it took was one woman, one voice, and one brutally honest reminder. Sometimes the emperor's new clothes are just designer distractions. Oh, tantrums. No shouting. Just the truth. And in Michelle's carefully curated universe, where every word is applauded and every flaw is reframed as virtue, that might be the most disruptive thing of all.